Welcome back to the Chelsweets kitchen. Today I'm sharing how to make this rainbow buttercream cake. So we're starting off by making some super colorful swirled layers. I've colored one batch of batter 6 different colors. So I divided it evenly between 6 bowls and colored them the colors of the rainbow. So I'm going to make a layer that's red and orange, a layer that's green and yellow, and a layer that's purple and blue. So I'm starting off with these first 2 layers. I'm just alternating spoonfuls of each different colored batter. And I'm going to repeat this process with my other purple and blue cake layer as well. I like to tap the pans on the counter once they're filled to help the batter settle and to help it evenly distribute throughout the pan. Next, I'm taking a small offset spatula and I'm making both horizontal and vertical lines through the batter. And that's what creates this beautiful swirled pattern. So as you do this, you want to be sure that your offset spatula is touching all the way to the bottom of the pan so that you're swirling the batter throughout the layer and not just on the surface. You also want to be sure to clean off your offset spatula between each different cake pan so that you don't incorporate any other colors into the cake layers. I used one batch of my favorite vanilla layer cake recipe to create this batter, and I've used it to fill 3 8-inch cake pans. If you want to see a more in-depth tutorial showing exactly how I make this batter, you can click the link in the upper right corner. So I popped these cake layers into a preheated 350-degree oven and baked them for about 34 minutes or until the toothpick came out clean. It was then time to assemble the cake. So I started with my blue and purple layer on the bottom, and I spread a thick, even layer of buttercream over the top. I then moved on to my green and yellow cake layer. As you can see, I actually chose not to level these cake layers. I normally use a serrated knife to trim the tops to help me get a really level cake as I build it, but I was so in love with the way the top of those cake layers looked, I just couldn't do it. However, if you want to trim your cake tops, you totally can. In this case, I just chose to use a little bit of extra buttercream to help make my cake nice and straight. Once I had applied a thin crumb coat around the cake, I chilled it in the freezer for about 5 minutes until that crumb coat was firm to the touch, and then I began to add a second thicker layer of frosting. This process can take quite a few minutes, so I actually have an in-depth tutorial with all my tips and tricks on how to get smooth sides on a cake. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click the link in the upper right corner. Next, I began to add all that colorful buttercream onto the sides of the cake. So this cake actually came to be because I had tons of leftover frosting in my fridge, and it all happened to be super colorful. So I made this rainbow cake as a great way to utilize some leftover frosting, and I just love things that are colorful like this. So I started off at the base of the cake with different shades of blue and green frosting, and all of these frosting bags are fitted with some form of a French frosting tip. Most of them are pretty small, but they do vary in size, and I really love that because it adds a great texture to the outside. So I continued up the outside of my cake, and I went from green to blue to purple and red, and then I finished with orange and yellow. So in my mind, this seemed like the perfect spectrum, but I was really upset because I realized after I made the cake that the pattern of the colors on the outside of the cake don't actually match the inside of the cake layers. But it looked beautiful, and I really love that gradient. So you can do whatever you want here, but you can totally either move your cake layers in a different order or add the colors in a different order to make them align. Once I got to that top edge of the cake, I really loved the way it looked, and I decided not to decorate the top. I figured a yellow top would just be kind of overwhelming and throw off the balance of colors. So at this point, I decided it was time to cut in and show those colorful cake layers. So again, you guys, you can totally rearrange the order of your cake layers or the colors that you mix together. Just a quick reminder that the vanilla cake recipe and American buttercream recipe that I used to make this cake are both up on Chelsweets.com. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure to give it a like, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.